You've probably been told, block him, beg for him, or just disappear. But here's the raw truth. Blocking and begging are two sides of the same powerless coin. One screams desperation. The other screams emotional immaturity. And guess what? Both give him the upper hand. Both tell him you're still tied to him. Both keep you stuck. Blocking him, that's not cutting him off. That's telling him you still have power over me. Begging him, that's handing him your self-worth on a silver platter. What if you could flip the script completely? What if you didn't need to block him? What if you didn't need to beg for his time, his attention, or his love? What if the most powerful move you could ever make was to simply let him feel your absence while you remain fully present in your own life? Here's the secret no one tells you. True impact doesn't come from loud reactions. It comes from quiet shifts. It comes when you no longer orbit around him. The reason most women stay stuck is because they think their only choices are either block or beg. But there's a third option. It's subtle, it's silent, but it's the most powerful thing you'll ever do. In this video, I'm going to show you exactly what that is. Stay with me, because by the end of this, you won't just know how to make him miss you. You'll know how to make him realize you were always the prize. Let's get into it. There's something unbelievably powerful about doing nothing, but doing nothing the right way. Most people think that if you want to get someone's attention, you have to either fight for it or run from it. But the most magnetic thing you can ever do, stop trying, genuinely, fully, quietly. That's where curiosity is born. The one move that truly sparks his curiosity isn't about blocking him to prove a point or begging him to stay. Both of those are loud. Both of those say, I still need you to notice me. But when you release him, without resistance, without resentment, without performance, that's when you become unforgettable. You don't chase. You don't cut him off. You just gently slip out of his emotional grip by shifting your energy entirely back to yourself. The beauty of this move is in its simplicity. You don't need to explain anything to him. You don't need to post pictures that scream, I'm doing better. You don't need to parade your healing in front of him. In fact, the more silent your shift is, the more powerful it becomes. It's when you start living your life as if you've already healed. You move as if his validation is no longer the currency you're chasing. And when you move like that, he feels it deeply. He may not know exactly what changed, but suddenly he's not the center of your story anymore. You're not as available. You're not offering endless chances. You're not emotionally invested in what he does next. You still respond if he reaches out, but you don't rush. You don't prioritize him like before. Your warmth stays, but your attachment fades. And that's what grips him. Not the cold shoulder, not the silence game, but the terrifying feeling that he's no longer essential in your world. You see, men aren't triggered by absence alone. They're triggered when they can feel that you've emotionally detached before they were ready for it. He starts asking questions he can't answer. Why isn't she chasing me anymore? Who has her attention now? Has she really moved on without me? That emotional mystery plants a seed of doubt in his mind, and that seed grows into something he can't shake. Suddenly, the man who felt so secure in your presence now feels displaced in your life. That's where curiosity is born, not because you tried to spark it, but because you stopped needing to. This move isn't a strategy to win him back. It's a strategy to win yourself back. And ironically, that's what pulls him in. When your peace no longer depends on his presence, you become rare, and what's rare becomes valuable. He might have expected you to block him. He might have expected you to beg. But what he didn't expect, what he never saw coming, was your quiet, graceful exit from his emotional stage. And it's in that silence he starts to wonder if he ever really had you at all. If you want to truly shift the dynamic, you have to understand one thing. Men operate on psychological patterns that they don't even fully understand themselves. They're not always intentionally distant, cold, or confusing. Sometimes they're simply reacting to internal instincts they've never been taught to recognize. And once you learn how these patterns work, you stop taking his behavior so personally, and you start moving with quiet power. One of the strongest psychological patterns in men is this. They value what feels just out of reach. Not what's completely gone, not what's desperately available, but what they can see, yet can't fully have. When you were emotionally chasing him, even subtly, you were reinforcing his comfort. He knew you were there. He knew you cared. He knew he could have you if he wanted. That's when men pull away, not because they don't like you, but because they feel no urgency to pursue what feels guaranteed. When you pull your emotional energy back, Not by blocking, not by begging, but by quietly recentering your life. You interrupt his pattern. Suddenly the safety net he thought he had disappears, and it sends a ripple through his emotional system. He starts to feel a strange discomfort that he can't immediately name. It's not just missing you, it's realizing his influence over you is gone. His mind will start searching for ways to regain that sense of importance. He might test you. He might reach out casually, trying to see if you'll still respond with the same enthusiasm. He might give you breadcrumbs just to see if you'll chase. And here's the key. When you understand this psychological dance, you don't flinch. You stay warm, but you don't reattach. You respond, but you don't overinvest. You stay curious, but you no longer lean in emotionally. This confuses him because it's not the pattern he's used to. He knows how to handle women who beg. He knows how to handle women who block and storm out. But he doesn't know what to do with someone who calmly remains, yet feels emotionally unavailable to him. That is what grips him. That is what shifts the power. Another important psychological trigger is the way men process regret and emotional loss. Unlike women, who often feel their emotions immediately, men tend to feel the weight of their decisions later, especially when they experience emotional silence instead of emotional noise. When you step back with peace, not punishment, you allow space for that delayed emotional processing to begin. And this is where his curiosity deepens into something more. It's no longer just where did she go? It becomes how did I lose someone like that? And that question lingers because you're no longer answering it for him. You've stopped feeding his ego. You've stopped chasing. You've stopped explaining. Understanding this psychology doesn't just help you win his curiosity. It helps you protect your own peace. When you master his patterns, you're no longer trapped in reaction mode. You start moving from wisdom, not wounds. And that's where your real power lives. There's one silent action that pulls a man closer more powerfully than words, more deeply than any grand gesture. It's not about ignoring him. It's not about cutting him off. It's about something far more subtle and far more effective. It's the moment you start emotionally detaching while remaining calmly present. You don't slam the door. You don't make a scene. You simply stop offering the emotional access he once took for granted. When you respond with calm energy, but stop pouring yourself into him, something in his mind clicks. You're still kind, but you're no longer available in the way he expects. He texts. You reply, but not right away. You're thoughtful, but your responses are no longer saturated with emotional investment. You listen, but you no longer try to convince him of your worth. You simply become slightly less reachable, slightly more distant, without ever announcing it. What makes this so powerful is that it's silent. You haven't blocked him. You haven't begged for his attention. You've just shifted in a way he can feel, but can't fully explain. And that creates a gap his mind wants to fill. Men don't like emotional uncertainty. When you were fully available, he could predict you. He felt secure in the fact that you were always there. Now your silence isn't loud, it's peaceful. It's the kind of silence that makes him question if he still holds the same place in your life. This silent action works because it removes emotional permission. You no longer give him the same level of access to your energy, your time, or your emotional space. And what we quietly take away is often missed more than what we loudly remove. The less you try to pull him in, the more gravity you naturally create. Your absence of emotional effort builds a presence he can't ignore. You don't tell him you've changed. You show it in the small spaces you leave empty, the missed calls you don't rush to return, the texts you answer with calm priority, not urgency, the shift from needing a response to simply offering one when it fits your life. This is not playing hard to get. It's being genuinely hard to reach, because you're now investing in yourself. This is what silently pulls him close. He starts leaning in, not because you forced him, but because your peace is pulling him. Your energy feels different now. It feels lighter, freer, less dependent on him. And men are instinctively drawn to what they feel slipping away, but not disappearing. What drives him crazy isn't your silence. It's the absence of the emotional pattern he once relied on. You've quietly stepped out of the cycle. You're still visible, but no longer predictable. You're still kind, but no longer accessible in the same way. That's the power of the silent action. It's not about cutting him off. It's about showing him, without a single word, that you've outgrown the version of you that once waited for him. Real power isn't loud. It's not in what you post, what you announce, or what you threaten. Real power is quiet. It's the energy you carry when you know your worth so deeply that you no longer need to explain it. Holding your power without saying a word is the most magnetic thing you can ever do. When you stop chasing, stop convincing, stop trying to make him see your value, you instantly shift the energy in your favor. You no longer need to talk about what you deserve. You simply embody it. You don't say, I won't tolerate this. You show it in your calm absence. You don't tell him, you lost me. You let him feel the distance you've gracefully created. The silence is not a punishment. It's a statement. It's you holding your power by choosing peace over reaction. When he reaches out, you no longer flood the conversation with emotion. You respond, but you don't overextend. You listen, but you don't emotionally lean in like before. Your tone is soft, but your boundaries are firm. Without ever saying it, you're communicating, you don't have the same access to me anymore. That's what captures his attention. That's what holds your power. When he senses that your energy is no longer centered around him, he feels it in his gut. You're not asking him to notice. You're not forcing him to change. You've simply outgrown the version of yourself that needed his validation. And that speaks louder than anything you could ever say. Here's what's unique. You don't have to disappear. You can stay present, but detached. You can still have conversations, but your investment level has shifted. You're no longer waiting on his next move to decide your own. You move first. You build your life first. You choose yourself first. This calm detachment is powerful because it's not a game. It's not how to make him chase you tactics. It's genuine. You're not pretending you don't care. You're actually starting to feel whole without him. And that's why he feels the change so deeply. Men instinctively chase what feels like it's slipping through their fingers, but they only stay when they feel emotional safety mixed with mystery. You become that balance when you hold your power quietly. You stop negotiating your standards. You stop repeating yourself. You stop over-explaining why you're pulling back. Instead, you let your distance speak. You let your peace be the loudest message he hears. There is no stronger position than being able to walk away. Not with anger, not with drama, but with steady, quiet confidence. When you hold your power without saying a word, you create an irresistible pull. He's drawn to the version of you who no longer needs him to feel complete. And the truth is, whether he comes closer or not, you've already won, because now your power is in your hands, not in his attention. When emotions are high, it's easy to make mistakes that push him further away without even realizing it. Often what we think will bring him closer actually creates distance. The most common mistake is trying to prove your worth to him. You think if you show him how loyal you are, how much you care, how patient you can be, he'll wake up and finally value you. But the more you try to prove yourself, the more he feels like you're chasing him. And men naturally pull away from what chases them. Another mistake is over-explaining your feelings. It's healthy to express yourself, but when you start writing long texts explaining how you feel, why you're hurt, or what you want, you're handing him the emotional blueprint to your heart. And if he's not in the right emotional space, he won't appreciate it. Instead of seeing your vulnerability as connection, he may feel overwhelmed or pressured. Sometimes your silence communicates more than your essays ever could. Begging, pleading, or negotiating for his time and attention is another silent relationship killer. When you start negotiating your worth, when you start saying things like, if you really cared, you'd do this, or why can't you just love me the way I need? You're placing your value in his hands. And when he senses that, he automatically feels like he has the power to control your happiness. That's when his interest fades. Not because you're not valuable, but because you've unintentionally shown him that you don't fully see your own worth. One of the biggest mistakes is making your life too available to him. Canceling plans, waiting by the phone, constantly being on standby for when he might decide to show up. These things tell him that your world revolves around him. And the harsh truth is this: men value what they have to work for. When you make yourself too accessible, too predictable, too ready for him, he no longer feels any sense of urgency to pursue you. Another mistake is trying to control the pace of the relationship. When you push for more commitment, more communication, more certainty before he's ready, you create resistance. It's natural to want clarity, But when you rush the process, you take away his ability to naturally lean in. True connection grows in space, not under pressure. Perhaps the most damaging mistake of all is abandoning your own self-worth in the process, losing yourself in trying to keep him, forgetting your hobbies, neglecting your goals, isolating yourself from friends, all because your emotional energy is tied to his attention. That's when you slowly start to disappear from your own life. The irony is, the more you center him, the more he drifts. But when you center yourself, when you stop chasing, stop negotiating, stop waiting, that's when you become magnetic again. The biggest lesson, you don't have to fight for someone who genuinely wants to stay. Let go of the mistakes that push him away and focus on the quiet confidence that naturally pulls him closer. The most powerful way to make a man regret losing you isn't by trying to prove anything to him. It's by becoming the version of yourself he never believed he could lose. Real regret doesn't come from your absence. It comes from his realization that your presence was rare, and now it's gone. It's not about making him feel bad. It's about making him feel the depth of what he took for granted. You don't achieve this by blocking him. You don't achieve this by begging for closure. You don't achieve this by forcing him to notice you. You make him regret losing you when you shift your entire focus back to your own life and genuinely thrive without him. When you stop trying to get a reaction, you create a space where he starts to question everything. Regret is born when he sees that you're no longer emotionally available, but still emotionally intact. You didn't collapse when he walked away. You didn't fall apart. You rebuilt. You grew. You became lighter, stronger, more grounded. You stopped explaining your worth and you started living it. That's what stings the most. Seeing you move on in a way that feels peaceful, not bitter. The truth is, men feel the deepest regret when the door stays quietly open, but they realize they can no longer walk through it. You're not blocking him, but you're no longer standing there waiting. He can reach out, but he's met with a version of you who doesn't orbit around him anymore. You don't hold resentment. You don't hold on. You've simply outgrown the dynamic where you used to chase. He might try to circle back. He might send messages, drop hints, or test if he still holds the same pull over you. But your response, calm, kind, but detached, is where his regret deepens. Because you're showing him that you're still you, but you've changed what you're available for. You no longer accept crumbs. You no longer wait for clarity. You no longer settle for potential. What makes him regret losing you is watching you step fully into your own energy. You're building your life, nurturing your passions, deepening your self-worth, not to make him jealous, but because you've finally realized you deserve that level of peace and fulfillment. That's when he starts to understand the real loss. It's not losing someone who begged to stay. It's losing someone who gracefully stopped waiting. Regret is not created when you try to force him to see your value. It's created when he realizes in his own time that your value was always there and he didn't rise to meet it. And by the time he fully feels that, you've already chosen yourself. That's the quiet power. That's the silent win. You make him regret losing you by showing him without a single word that your life didn't end when he left. It just got better. Walking away with confidence isn't about making a dramatic exit. It's not about blocking him, deleting his number, or loudly announcing that you're done. True confidence is much quieter. It's the moment you decide to stop begging for what you already deserve. It's the moment you stop needing his validation to confirm your worth. It's the decision to choose yourself, not because you're trying to punish him, but because you finally realized you're the prize. When you walk away with confidence, you don't look over your shoulder to see if he's following. You're not walking away to get a reaction. You're walking away because chasing him started to feel like you were walking away from yourself. And when staying connected to someone costs you your peace, the most self-loving thing you can ever do is let go. Confidence isn't about pretending you don't care. It's about knowing you'll be okay even if you do. It's about trusting that even if it hurts now, your healing is more valuable than holding on to someone who couldn't see your worth. You stop waiting for his next text. You stop waiting for him to wake up and choose you. You realize you don't need to be chosen. You've already chosen yourself. Walking away with confidence means you've learned how to stand in your own life, not in the shadows of his indecision. It means you no longer over-explain your feelings. You no longer negotiate for scraps of attention, and you no longer shrink yourself to fit into spaces that were never built for you. You've stopped performing. You've stopped waiting. You've stopped hoping for the version of him that only existed in your imagination. The beauty of this moment is that you don't need to close the door with anger. You can leave it gently swinging open. But this time, you've simply outgrown the space where you used to wait. If he comes back, it doesn't shake you. If he doesn't, it doesn't break you. You've built something much stronger now, a life where your happiness isn't tied to his presence. When you walk away with confidence, something inside him shifts. Maybe not immediately, but eventually. He feels the difference between a woman who left there to get attention and a woman who left because she realized she deserved more. And that difference lingers. That's when regret sets in. That's when curiosity grows. That's when he starts to question what he thought was always guaranteed. The beauty of this moment is that you don't need to close the door with anger. You can leave it gently swinging open. But this time, you've simply outgrown the space where you used to wait. If he comes back, it doesn't shake you. If he doesn't, it doesn't break you. You've built something much stronger now. A life where your happiness isn't tied to his presence. When you walk away with confidence, something inside him shifts. Maybe not immediately, eventually. He feels the difference between a woman who left to get attention and a woman who left because she realized she deserved more. And that difference lingers. That's when regret sets in. That's when curiosity grows. That's when he starts to question what he thought was always guaranteed. But by then, your life has already moved forward. And that's the most powerful place to be. Not because you've won him back, but because you've won yourself back. Walking away with confidence isn't the end of your story. It's the beginning of a new one. One where you're finally the main character in your own life. One where your peace, your happiness, and your worth no longer depend on whether or not someone else chooses you. You've already chosen you, and that's more than enough.